Our next session is, our next topic here is the Quantum Accord Annual Update. This session is going to be moderated by George Thomas from Connected DMV, and our panelists are Viki Forrest from the Trade and Investment Queensland, Mayra van Houts from Quantum Delta NL, the Netherlands, and Nick Werstiuk, Quantum Valley Ideas Lab. Please join me in welcoming George, Viki, Mayra, and Nick.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is George Thomas. I'm with Connected DMV. It's great to see all of you today. We have a very interesting update today. This is to talk about the Quantum Accord that we announced on this stage last year at Quantum World Congress. We want to take this opportunity to give you a brief update about where we are as a collective as we have been working on it. But before I start, maybe I will ask my panelists to say a couple of words about themselves and their organizations as we kind of get started. Maybe I'll start with you, Nick, and then work our way backwards.
Sure. Thanks, George. Nick Werstiuk from Quantum Valley Ideas Lab in Waterloo. So that's Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. So we're a community of multiple organizations in what we call Canada's Quantum Valley, of the university, Perimeter Institute, my organization as an applied research lab, working together to try and build a quantum ecosystem in Waterloo.
Yes, thanks. My name is Mayra van Houts, and I'm from Quantum Delta in the Netherlands. We're the Dutch National Quantum Program, and we are also a collaboration of 5 hubs in Amsterdam, Delft, Leiden, and Eindhoven and Twente. And I'm here also representing those hubs, and in that sense also part of the Quantum Accord.
I'm Viki Forrest. I'm the Commissioner for Trade and Investment Queensland in the Americas. We're based in San Francisco. But today I'm representing the Queensland government and the role that Queensland is playing in the Accord, and the role that Queensland plays in the initiation of new industries in Australia, and quantum being a very key one of those.
Thank you all. Just to give a little bit of overview and to remind everybody of the background, the 4 of us worked together over the course of last year and announced the Accord at Quantum World Congress in 2023. And kind of like the reasoning and logic that led us to do this kind of collaboration was from a region-to-region perspective. We found that as we were comparing notes, and we've been working together in individual pairs for years before that, there were a lot of commonality in the problems we're trying to address. And there was a lot of assets that we were each building that were kind of complementary in some ways to each other. So the Accord kind of came about very naturally as a way to kind of align, to share resources, share assets, and kind of help our ecosystems do better, faster, at scale by doing, making decisions at the ground level, at the coal face, as I like to say it, with what we want to do. That's kind of like the reasoning behind the Accord. And when we signed last year, the one kind of change from last year to this year was we had signed, Australia was represented by an organization called EQUIS, Andrew White. And we have kind of, had discussions, and that's kind of come into the state level itself. And the state of Queensland has replaced EQUIS as the Australian member in this 4-person Accord with what it is. So Viki and the state of Queensland, thank you so much for joining and carrying forward the spirit that we had kind of established the Accord within, when we did this in 2022. So that's a little bit of the kind of overview of the what and the why. Now, the Accord's efforts itself have been focused very specifically down at the level of how do we do things that we control directly. And the real kind of priorities within that has been workforce and talent, very clearly, has been accelerating access for our industry, both the people who are building things as well as the people who potentially could be clients, to have access to each other's ecosystems in a rapid fashion has been kind of like the basic driver underneath it. So since we signed the Accord on stage last year, I believe it was like a 4-way handshake on stage that we did. The work essentially has been twofold. One is, as with any of these things, process and paperwork and governance and framework takes its steps, and we are doing everything that we are doing, to do it in a proper way. So the governance framework and the structure and the mechanism for that has been a good part of the focus the first 6-7 months of it, including how to bring in new members and what the rules of those should look like. So last year when we were on the stage, we had put forward kind of like a mechanism for applications, if you want to call it that, to express interest. And there were a number of you who had expressed interest, but we have taken our time to figure out what the next steps of that might be. So from a summary effort to date, a lot of the work that the four of us has been doing has been focused on the mechanics of what we would do together, the mechanics of what ingestion of new members would look like on one end of it. And on the other end of it, what tactically could we do to, across the 4 pillars of work that we have, that what tactically could we do. So we'll, jointly kind of try to explain some of the tactical stuff, but the governance stuff was also important for everybody to know. So for those of you we've been having some conversations with from other ecosystems, I think we're now in a place where, over the course of the rest of this year, we'll be ready to bring up more details on those conversations to kind of explore what we might be able to do to add more members into the Accord is the idea. So with that, let's talk about the areas of collaboration. And the first one is around talent and workforce. So there has been a number of discussions to figure out how do we take assets that we have and try to do some exchanges around talent and workforce. And I know in all of our ecosystems, development of those, both at the universities we all have, as well as the K-12 we all have, is very critically important. And all of us have individual agencies and departments and education institutions that have been doing on it. So maybe I can kind of ask, again, Nick, starting with you, and then Mayra and Viki, some thoughts around the talent and workforce angle of it.
Sure. So within the Waterloo Quantum Valley community, we have obviously the University of Waterloo is sort of the big partner in the community with the Institute of Quantum Computing, and then we have the Perimeter Institute for Physics, theoretical physics there as well. And all those organizations, I know Perimeter is very involved in, bringing quantum towards the larger educational community, the K-12. And so they run a series of programs that I think are probably similar to the programs that most of the regions are trying to run to build that talent pool and the workforce in the communities. So I think those are kind of the examples where having the Accord and having our communities kind of be linked will sort of facilitate those kinds of the sharing of those experiences and the rolling out of maybe additional programs or best learnings from each other on how to make those programs the most effective in the educational system that we have.
Yeah, I think I agree with Nick. We also, in the Netherlands, we have connected to our hubs. We have, for example, talent and learning centers. They connect university education also to vocational education, which is, I think, very interesting, and are also slowly connecting it to even like primary school, middle school, and high school education. Also, what you see now in the Netherlands, I think several university masters have been started for various quantum disciplines. And those students are now also getting in the areas that are looking for exchanges or internships. And then it would be amazing to also send them all over the world. And I think the Quantum Accord is also, and the connection then to other regional ecosystems is a really good accelerator for that. And also to bring more people together. And also because on a national level, you know that all those programs are happening, but then in the end, it will be executed by the hubs on a regional level.
For Queensland, quantum and talent in quantum goes back a long time. I think it's 30 plus years that the universities of Queensland have had a major focus on quantum and have had some of the best minds in the world in quantum computing involved in lecturing and the subsequent curriculums that have been built in those universities for many decades. So consequently, the students have emerged to be world leaders as well. And an anecdote and proof of that is when my team started researching quantum in the US about 5 years ago to have a look at what was emerging, what the large corporates were doing, what units were focused on quantum in large corporates, what startups there were. without exception, we found a Queenslander in every single one of them. We're very, very rich in talent in Queensland in quantum.
And from a collaboration perspective, we've been very liberal in borrowing work that Nick's ecosystem has done and the Queensland ecosystem has done. Specifically, Nick from the University of Waterloo. There's a lot of content that we've used in both our Quantum Student Network program and our executive education program and the work at UQ. Michael and others who have built the programs, that's actual courseware that we can kind of use, we have taken, and vice versa. We are having discussions back with them on some of our programs that they can take. So that's been really incredibly helpful in kind of accelerating, speed to market, as it were, when it comes to education and programs of such as those. So the second topic was industry advancement, and the first kind of very tactical thing that we are in the process of doing is what we just in the US call Industry Days, which is introduction of industries from our ecosystem to industry and buyers in each other's ecosystems and vice versa. So Nick, maybe I can start with you again with regard to farthest away.
I always get to go first. That's good. So we actually are doing something with Quantum Delta Netherlands here in a few weeks, where we have a delegation of folks coming, mostly companies from their ecosystem, and we're trying to bridge together a conversation around the two different commercialization ecosystems and share experiences and see what collaboration and opportunities might come from that. So I think there's about a dozen folks coming, companies coming, and we have, we're sort of harnessing the power of the sort of distributed community in Waterloo. We're going to host some of the first part of it at our location and have a discussion with parts of the ecosystem, and then there's a bigger session which brings in other research groups from the university and so on, and other companies that have spun out of the university to kind of try and build that network between those organizations, right? So I think, those are, that's a visit. Like, some of that can be done virtually, of course, but that's a visit where, I think obviously we're all, I think all of us would see value in those kinds of visits and conversations between trying to bridge the supply chains and the end user use cases between the different communities.
Yeah, I completely agree. Also look forward to visiting you. But I think those visits and just bringing people together from all kinds of disciplines, that is the biggest accelerator also of collaboration and exchange of ideas. And because really you bring the people that are working and executing quantum together, they have a better insight also on the way they want to work together. And then we as an ecosystem can also then help them set up those collaborations. So I think that's a first. And I think secondly, the industry days that we might want to set up also from the Quantum Accord can also really help with that. Also from a broader QDNL perspective, I think to find more use cases, do more end user engagement and industry engagement is really our focus for the next couple of years. And I feel that's also for other countries the same. And if you work together, like regionally, but also internationally, you just have a bigger group of industry which you can interact with. And I think that also really helps your startups and your researchers, because you can really connect them to a broader audience. And that leads to more ideas exchanged. And I think that leads to all kinds of benefits.
I think that sums it up, actually. I perhaps just to add, the area that I see as that will benefit hugely by collaboration is all of the supply chains around quantum. As we bring any industry to commercialization, there's a lot of unknowns about what's going to ultimately be needed to make it work and to make it work commercially. But the supply chains around quantum have already emerged as a major opportunity in Queensland with recent investments that we've made, that Australia and Queensland have made together in PsiQuantum's presence in Queensland, and we're looking closely and working closely with them around supply chains. And I see a huge opportunity. We're going to have to go global, a huge opportunity to use our partners in the Accord to connect us as our supply chain needs become obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of looking forward a little bit, what we kind of envision is, both in-person visits, like Nick and Mayra said, but also a series of kind of virtual introduction visits between, domain-specific or industry-specific companies, startups, academia, leaders across those spaces as we try to kind of get more person-to-person and peer-to-peer kind of contact between our ecosystems is kind of like the driver. And over the course of next year, we'll be hosting a whole bunch of them between each other. And of course, Netherlands holds the very wonderful Quantum Meets conference. So we are kind of also debating between QWC and Quantum Meets and other kinds of things. How do we kind of start collaborating, because you collect a local ecosystem there. We have our ecosystems here. There are ways to kind of collaborate. So I kind of envision both on the industry side as well as just kind of the ecosystems collaborating, like turning up at each other's kind of places, happening more and more over the next couple of years as this develops is definitely something close to our hearts as we move forward. So the one other thing I wanted to kind of bring up is one of the other efforts that we are doing. It's a little nascent at this point. We have started it, but with the idea of extending it to everybody. We are going to be the guinea pigs, as it were. So in the greater Washington area, we have about 125 quantum-related kind of institutions of some type that are doing either pure quantum or something very associated with quantum. We have started a whole kind of mapping and tagging exercise across that based in Esri, to kind of look at what they are down to the level of what they're doing and who is doing it level. And once we kind of have that, the data model, we'll export it, to everybody so we can kind of start connecting really at that peer level. A right person who's doing a type of something in a domain can find somebody else without just having to know who they are through personal connections. So over the course of next year, we'll be working on that a little bit more. And as everybody who's worked with data models, it can be quite a bit challenging to kind of get that just right at the level of granularity that it is useful, but it is not painful to kind of manage and kind of update on a regular basis, especially in our nascent industry when everybody moves so often. It's a little bit of a pain to kind of manage and update is something like that. So with that, in the time that we have left, maybe I can kind of go this way and ask Viki and then Mayra and Nick, it's a bold question, but the value you see in the Accord. We started talking about this 2 years ago, and Viki, I apologize, I'm putting you on the spot first because you're new into this, but is there still value in it? Maybe I'll have Mayra and Nick and then Viki say this. Is there still value in it? And should we continue to keep doing this? And then can others kind of participate maybe as kind of like a corollary to this? Maybe it might be something to start. Mayra, maybe you?
I think there's absolutely a lot of value in it. I think I already sketched all the opportunities we see. I don't think there is a regional ecosystem collaboration yet. So I think as first movers in that sense, I think it can add great value to all of us. And I think it's even better if more other regional ecosystems join as well. And that leads, what I just said, also to more collaboration, more ideas exchanged, and also the acceleration of the development of the technology. So yes, I'm in favor.
I get to say I agree. So that's no. I think especially these kind of relationships and regional between like-minded nations and communities. Like we're all trying to work together because we understand. I think collectively that the quantum industry will be a global industry, and trying to build those bridges at the community-to-community level, I think helps facilitate some of those. Either end user conversations or supply chain conversations, and trying to figure out how we're all going to piece together products and solutions for the market. So I'm really think it's a worthwhile endeavor. It'd be great to sort of have more participants and more of this, community to community kind of ongoing interaction.
I'll comment from the point of view of what I do know is in my day-to-day, we focus very much on the introduction of new industries to Queensland and to Australia. And it's a matching game. And getting new industry off the ground is super hard. So I am absolutely delighted that there is an accord for quantum. It can only help and help speed things forward. So we're in.
And it's fun to be on stage with George again.
Yes, absolutely. No, I'm truly humbled by the amount of collaboration, cooperation we've had in such a short time, and how far we have come. And realistically, it's been 9 months since we signed this, so it's just come a tremendous way, and it's thanks to the leadership of, the three of you that have kind of made it happen. So thank you so much, and we are in as well, and we are really looking forward to doing more over the next year and having even more things to report when we're back here next year. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.